can I just,
Okay.
can I make the Jane announcement? Jane had a last minute emergency and will not be here tonight. So
Right. Cool.
Oh, by the way, your guys' this meeting is not in the calendar.
Yeah, I noticed that today.
Normally
Okay.
I'd log on through the calendar and I went to the calendar and this meeting does not exist on our calendar.
oh, huh.
Does sending it to Catherine put it in the calendar, or does it need to go into the calendar some other way?
You can send it to Catherine, that'd be fine.
Okay, because she did get the agenda. Right, welcome to the Thursday governance meeting for the San Juan County Charter Review Commission, and we're going to take a little roll call real quick here. Janet Brunell,
I am here.
David Dellendorf,
I'm here.
Richard Grout,
Here,
Tony Gazelle,
Present.
Kevin Ranker,
A key.
and Olivia Roseberry is not here, as is Jane Fuller, who has something else. She can't be here as well. So at the beginning of every meeting, I do like to ask, in the past, or this is probably the last time we'll do it, I like to find out what is everybody's holiday. So I just go in we've asked other colors and favorite drinks in the past. Janet, what's your favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving.
That's a fun one. David, how about you?
My anniversary.
Wait,
Oh,
that count. Okay.
Okay. I'll take that back. My birthday, which is frequently on Labor Day. So
Okay.
Labor Day.
Labor Day's going. Richard, how about you?
Guy Fawkes Day.
Good answer. Tony, how about you?
Easter.
Easter. Big one. Kevin, how about you?
Mother's Day.
Oh, that's a good one too. I like Martin Luther King Day. That's kind of, I'm partial to that. Just it's a very powerful, but well, thank you. So I trust that you all got the minutes.
I was
And-
born on Mother's Day.
Oh, wow. That's gonna be a big deal. Are you firstborn? Her first child?
Oh no, I'm in the middle.
Oh, okay.
3 boys, my poor mom.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'm the mellow one.
Wow.
It's a little
Your poor
terrifying,
mom.
actually. All right, Dave, are you looking for a motion on the minutes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Has everybody had a chance to read them? And is there a
Yes.
motion to approve them?
I move to approve them, and I would also like to say, David, great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Second,
Okay.
What? Did I did a great job?
no,
David, that's a great compliment for a person that words are her world.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Vote on that next. And so the at the very end of the last meeting, we talked about
Do you want to vote on it?
oh, I'm sorry, we did not vote on it. Yes. Is there a vote on the approval of the minutes?
Actually, is there discussion?
Is there discussion?
Yeah.
No
Never.
discussion. Okay. Is there a vote? All in favor of supporting the approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I will abstain just because I wasn't here.
Okay. Fair enough. In the last meeting, we discussed about restructuring our workflow and kind of reviewing or revising our working list of issues, using what the original list we have, but just kind of revising it to what would be more appropriate to how we're going to go forward. Did everybody get that spreadsheet? Have a chance to look at it possibly, or at least get it?
it's,
Okay. Okay, so I was gonna say we should have a discussion about it and make sure that it's something that we all feel comfortable moving forward with.
Yes, and I would say from here on in, we all agree that this is the one piece of paper we're looking at going forward, so
Okay.
that there's no confusion about what we're looking at.
Kevin,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a correction, and I don't know if this was in the creation of the spreadsheet or originally typed this way, but I just realized that item number 11, public vote on appointments of citizen committees, that was, at least it was never recommended by me. What I had in the original note was that there would be a public process for all citizen committee appointments. Right now, it's come to our attention that individual council persons, so there's an application you fill out for a citizens committee, and individual council persons have just buried that when they don't like the person. And what was suggested was that there should be a public up or down vote on everybody who applies for a committee. So not by the council though. So it's not a public vote like on a ballot. It's that the council will have a public process, a due process that they go through.
Great, thank you.
Just reword that somehow. So it's maybe says public process instead of public vote.
It theoretically is a public process now, Kevin, as you probably know, at the end, the clerk makes a recommendation on appointments to the various commissions. And they just vote on it, but it's sort of just a rubber stamp thing. Every time I've been involved,
Okay.
but it's not public process. It's out in the open. It's on the agenda, as I guess I should say. And they do vote on it in a public session.
Kevin, real quick.
I was just going to say, we can get to this when we get to
Yeah.
that in discussion.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we can change it from
I'll
vote to process at that time.
I'll change
Wrong.
I'll change that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's just dig in and just kind of go through the list and see where we're at with the issue, and if we already done it, and then we'll just move on to the next one. The first, number one, is increase to 5 the number of current members, is from 3 to 5, and that's something we discussed in the past, and we voted on it, had a vote on it, and we voted to not put that forward. So we can all agree on that, I assume, that we're going forward. And then number 2 was to add executive authority to the first and second of paragraphs in 2.10 of the county charter.
So
Can I-
David, that's yours.
Yeah, well, the way it reads is it just says legislative authority. It doesn't say executive authority, and they do have both. So I just thought it would be a simple fix just to add executive authority in the 2 sentences in 2.10.
So you're suggesting that it say the legislative and executive authority of the county.
That's my understanding of what it says later on, and that's my understanding of what the council's responsibilities are. It just doesn't say it at 2.10. It just says the legislative authority of the county shall consist of 3 members. And then the next says the legislative authority shall be known as the county council. So it's a little bit deceptive because I think later on it does say executive as well, but
So,
it doesn't say it in there.
so I would, so David, not to interrupt, I would say because the charter is broken up into 2 parts, which is, there's the I see what you're saying, just in 2.10, because there's a legislative and, so yes, I agree that in that section, it should say legislative and executive authority, because then they have legislative powers, executive powers
Yeah.
following it.
Having, Dave, can I say one more thing?
Yeah,
Having pointed that out, this is one of those very kind of nitpicky, kind of just little grammatical or no, it's not grammatical, but it's just one of those little issues that I think we could get bogged down in if we actually put this out in a proposed amendment for public vote. And I'm just wondering if it's even worth the trouble of doing it. It really doesn't change much. It's just kind of a clarification. So maybe Kevin could speak to that, whether we even bother with these kind of things.
Kevin
Yeah.
and Jane.
Janet had her hand up first.
And
so I-
Janet.
Go,
Jen.
Kevin.
I was going to say, my understanding is that a bulk of these sorts of changes will all be in one ballot initiative. You're not going to have a separate initiative for every single one of these. And so we can make a number of these changes where they are substantive, like creating a new department or an elected official. That is a separate ballot position. It would not be part of the original.
That's
So
what I was
kind
gonna
of a,
say.
like just kind of a catch-all amendment for just little
Yeah.
nitpicky things. Okay, good.
And I'm in agreement with making that change.
In terms of putting it on the spreadsheet and how we're describing that, what would we describe that kind of I guess, grammatical change, or is it substantive? I don't think it. Yeah, Kevin?
I think the way you have it listed now, keep it listed separate like this, go through, make your decisions, and then at some point your committee is our committee is going to have to consolidate all of these and
Right.
present them.
Okay. So,
So can I make a motion?
please.
I move that we make those changes, those two sentences adding in executive authority.
Second,
Okay, seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor for adding those two changes?
aye.
Right.
Aye.
Okay, that is, I support that. That's 5. Is all those opposed? Kevin, are you?
I'm sorry, I voted aye, just very in my
Okay.
head. In my head,
Okay. Well, we're not to the place of telepathy yet, but we're going to get there. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to number 3, expand public comment process at county council meetings. I think he was wanting to have, the proposal was to have 5 minutes guaranteed to every person who wanted to speak, and then a requirement that a council person would have to give a reply. Richard?
I'm gonna start.
I'm opposed to both of those. Virtually all of the public bodies in the county limit to 3 minutes. And 3 minutes is actually a long time. If you can't say what you need to say in 3 minutes, you probably need to do your homework and make things a little more succinct. And I'm sorry, the second one was,
They must respond to the
oh, yeah.
comment.
And the rule has always been that public comment is for people to express their views. The council and other elected bodies in the county don't get in debate or argument with people who are presenting their views. And I think that's the way it should stay.
Tony?
I think Janet was before me, but I'll,
Go ahead, Tony.
okay. I'm really opposed to this because when you start, meddling into things like this, there's really no end to it. As a matter of fact, you'll have to change a couple of 3 sections on this. One particular section you need to deal with is section 2.4, item 2 of particularly, because the item 2 says the county council shall be responsible for its own organization, the rules of conduct of its business, and for the employment and supervision of persons, and so on and so forth. So if we change any words in other parts, it's going to affect multiple sections. I'll just leave it the way it is. It's not causing a problem. And to tell the council that you have to respond in a meeting is really extraordinary. You don't want to respond to a question or a comment in a meeting like that.
Any other? David, please.
I agree with Dick and Tony, and I move that we vote no on this, that we do not approve this suggestion by Bob O'Connell.
second,
Okay, second. Is there any discussion?
I would just say that the Open Public Meeting Act is to have a public meeting in front of the public. It's not to necessarily engage with every single person who comes. I don't care about the 3 minutes versus 5 minutes. I care about a council member responding to each person, because that opens up a decision-making process, and it opens up a whole part that you don't want to do as in the Open Public Meetings Act. So that's all I want to say. I'm in support of the motion.
Yeah, me too. To me, it almost feels like an opportunity for the public to filibuster, or at least keep a meeting going over past periods. So, we have the question is called and seconded. All those in favor of all those in favor of supporting this amendment?
No, I think he was
No, that's
opposed.
not the motion. That's not the motion.
The motion. Okay, all those in favor of
voting down the
Yeah.
voting this down. Okay, that's
Dick?
unanimous.
Yeah.
All those, nobody's against it. Okay.
motion passes.
Motion passed. Okay, number 4 is expand the list of names of administrative departments responsible to county council. Tony or David, you want to speak to this?
Me?
Dellendorf is named.
Well, it may be me more than Tony.
Okay,
This is a nitpicky thing, probably also in 4.0. It starts out Article 4, Administrative Department. So we're just introducing now this concept. It says the administrative department shall include the county manager, the Department of Public Works, and such additional departments, offices, or agencies as the council may deem necessary. I think it should actually list all the departments and not just leave it to the reader's imagination and trying to figure out what they all are. I think it'd just be much clearer here and have it in a one-stop shop of what the different departments are at this point in time, because it does go on to say that they can be added as deemed necessary. So it covers both present and future.
okay. Tony, your name's on here, and then Kevin.
Yeah. I remember now. No, I actually, when I was reading all that from at the beginning, I thought there was nowhere that it lists that what departments are responsible to respond or are responsible to report to the council. But then after reading the whole charter multiple times, it's really clear that the charter has control on which departments will report to them directly or not. So I don't need to have that list. So I'm pulling my name off of that particular item.
Okay. Kevin.
I think it's actually important, and I think it should actually be a capital A and a capital D, and this should be a title, because technically administrative departments in this scenario, this form of government, would be the departments that answer to the administrator. And then there are elected departments. And so I think we should list them, particularly with some of the discussions going on in another subcommittee about creating a new department and a new elected official. I think it's going to be important for us going forward to list out which are administrative departments and which are elected departments. And so I agree with the motion to go ahead and list them. And then I think somewhere else, we should make sure we make the edit that we say, and these are the elected departments.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Tony.
Just to be clear that when I put my name onto the list to enumerate the departments under their control, was that because at some point I would read that the council has control over departments, but there was no place that it said which departments they had control over. But then reading the charter, it didn't really matter because it says that the road department and something else was under their supervision, but everything else should be under the county manager's supervision. So I kind of said, okay, this is fine. I don't need to know. But I see now that this is a little bit different. It's actually listing the different departments that are under the purview of the council because they're not elected heads, they're appointed heads. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the clarity, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tony, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm not familiar with that section off the top of my head. Would it be advantageous for us to go out? So what caught me in what you just said is that the charter says some departments are responsible to the manager and some are to the council. That doesn't actually make sense to me the way the full charter scope is written. And so would it be advantageous for us to lay out at some point what departments are responsible to who? So we say these are administrative departments and they report to the county manager and ultimately to the council. And then we say, and these are elected departments that answer to their elected official. The way you described it sounded a bit ambiguous to me. And so I'm just trying to clarify if that's the case or if you don't think that's the case. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. I mean, the primary point in the charter about the council's responsibility is that they have the power to change all of that. They can change which departments report to them, and they can change which departments report directly to the to the county manager that are appointed, not the elected. So they have that power. Now, under the duties of the manager, it states which departments that it says that the manager is responsible to manage, conduct, and run the departments that are whose heads he or she can appoint. But the county council has a certain power, which I thought it's kind of strange that the road department is really listed separately as under the supervision of the council, which that did not make sense to me. And I'll have to find it in the charter again, but it's just, that's the kind of, that's ambiguous. I agree with you. There are some things that are not clear. I think they should just leave it the way it is and say all the departments that are appointed should be under the supervision of their immediate heads first, and then ultimately the county manager. Because the county manager really reports to the council, and the council tells the county manager what needs to be done. So,
Exactly.
Okay, David?
Yeah, I think we're mixing apples and oranges. 410 is intended just to list the departments. It's like an org, or not an org chart, but just a chart, and it doesn't deal with who reports to whom. And that's what I'm trying to get at in 410. But now we got off a little bit on a sidetrack of which department heads report to the county manager and which to the county council. And I think that's a separate discussion. So I'd like to focus just that we move on from 4.10, which is just a very quick decision. I think the issue of who reports to who is covered in section 4.41, which I assume we will get to.
Okay.
That starts out by saying it is the prerogative of the county council to determine which department heads report directly to them or through their appointed county manager. There we list the division between who reports to whom.
Okay, great. Kevin?
I was just going to say, David, you are correct. I apologize for interjecting that other subject. I think it's important we get to it, so let's make sure we get to it. On the other one, my suggestion is that we list all of the departments, as you said, and all of the administrative departments need to be listed. So everybody who's not an elected department.
So just for clarification, it just says all it's trying to define is administrative departments. That's what this 4.10 is defined as, administrative departments. And they shall include the county manager, that's one part of administrative departments, Department of Public Works, that's also an administrative departments, and such additional departments, offices, or agencies as a council may deem necessary. So additional departments you want defined? Okay.
There's only 13 of them. List them.
So what happens in year 5 when they want to add in, the Department of blah, blah, blah?
It's covered. It says that they can add departments.
But that's what I'm saying. Right now, that's what it is. So such additional departments. I'm just saying, right now, what we're gonna add is a list, Department of Public Works, and we're gonna list 13. And then we're gonna say, and such additional departments as deems, you're creating the same rhetoric. Basically.
Well, what I would do is you would take out at the very beginning of that section saying the administrative departments. I'm sorry, but I have to go back and find it. I'm sorry, 4.10.
Yeah, all it's doing is defining what the composition is of administrative departments.
Okay,
Well,
Kevin and
you
then
have-
Tony.
You have to add, what you have to do is take out administrative departments at the beginning, and then at the very end, you say you put comma, collectively, the administrative departments. Then you've defined administrative departments as being the ones you listed, plus the ones that would be added, might be added in the future.
Okay, Kevin and then Tony.
I think what's important, and whether it's in this section or the following section that I got us in a tangent on a moment ago, I think what's important is we define what administrative departments is, what that means. And what it means to me is that it's any department that is not under an elected official. And then in the later section, we need to define that those answer to the county manager, because the county manager acts as the COO. So whether it's in this section or the following section that David referred to, I think the question here, this language could stay the same, but somewhere we need to define that administrative departments are every single department not under an elected official.
That's what the section defines. So that's cleaner. That's cleaner. That's cleaner to say the administrative department shall be defined as any department that is not an elected official. And that's cleaner than listing 13 things that may change in perpetuity. That makes more sense to me.
Tony, that's exactly to my point, is that if you list them and then at one point you're saying that the county council has the authority to manage whichever department they want. If they're listed as being managed by somebody else, then they cannot really change that in the charter. So I would say Janet's minimal words are perfect, because it just says in general, and then that general category could be added to or removed from without having to change the charter.
Yes. How,
Yeah,
Dave,
Richard. Yeah,
okay,
please.
what if we just said the administrative departments shall include the county manager, all departments, not, I don't have the exact wording, but all departments not run by an elected official, and such additional departments, offices, or agencies as the county council may deem necessary. So we're saying it's the county manager, anybody any office that is not run by an elected official, and then any offices that the council deems necessary to add later.
Well, I think, yeah,
And then we can do what Kevin wants to do later on if we want to.
Then define.
We can list all the offices, but that way it just says what I think it says what Kevin's trying to say, and it also says, those that the county may deem necessary. So they have the ability to create a new office.
Yep, that covers all that. Yep.
Okay, David?
Could I draft wording for the meeting next week and try to cover everything that everybody said? Because we'll spin our wheels here if we're trying to
Yeah.
word craft. I think it's pretty basic what we want
Or
to
you
do.
can look at chat. I just wrote it.
Okay, well, I will look at chat, but after the meeting. So let's not vote on it. Let's move on to, probably the more important thing is what Kevin and Tony were referring to. That's who reports to whom, which I think is 4.41.
I actually think the most important thing, David, is what I said.
well, always, Richard.
That's not what Susan told me.
So, so on our spreadsheet, we're gonna say, David will take, I would say, copy what Kevin
Yeah.
has written, and you'll verbiage it, and we're moving on from this.
Is that Kevin?
I think we need to add section 4.41 to this list because I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, when I put this list together, actually, I thought 4.41 might be a number 7, which was a big catch-all thing that Tony was working on to
Yeah.
remove ambiguity and contradiction.
Okay, cool.
I think 4.1 can we be treated at that point in time,
That's
Yeah.
fine. Thank you.
unless Tony feels otherwise.
Okay. So is there a motion to table this till next week?
I would just say that the maker of the motion should withdraw the motion.
Okay.
Yeah. Did we have a motion?
I don't think we had a motion.
Motion, okay.
No motion made.
There
Yeah.
was, sorry.
Okay, so we shall table that until next week.
Great. Awesome.
Okay. Now this is an issue brought up by Commissioner Starr. Add time limit to the council's emergency powers. And I don't really understand that. I assume that they could determine the time. They are the ones to do it. So Richard?
I believe from what Tom said early on, this springs from the fact that some people, apparently including Tom, were upset that the council was able to declare a public health emergency over COVID, and that there was no end to it. Or maybe it was that the public health officer, Dr. James, was able to do it. And so he wanted to put a time limit on that. This is the same thing that came up in the state legislature. Legislators, particularly Republicans, were upset with the governor, and they wanted to put a time limit on it. I think when you get into what is a legitimate emergency, you want one person in charge. So I am opposed to this.
Okay.
I think Kevin was going to say something.
Yeah, Kevin, you have your hand up?
I couldn't say it better than Dick.
Yeah.
This is a big deal. You can't do this. You don't know how long an emergency is going to be.
Yeah.
You don't know. And we just have to hope that we elect good people and get out of their way.
And
Yeah.
by the way, if you limit it, you have to have a mechanism for extending it. And then we start having to create, what is the mechanism? Who's going to then decide if that can have an extension? It's, yeah. Tony has.
And
Tony.
meanwhile, more people drop dead.
Yeah, Tony.
I just don't think it's workable to put limits on things like that. If it's an emergency, it's an emergency, and you hope and pray that the elected officials have the sense to figure out when it's done and when it's not done. So I think we just leave it the way it is.
I move that we do not add time to the council's emergency powers. A limit, but
I have a quick question though. Who creates the emergency? Who has the emergency powers to call for an emergency? Kevin?
It totally depends on the type of emergency. So in a public health situation, Frank James, it's amusing. Most people have never even heard of our county health official until last
Right.
year. They have extreme authority. They could tell the council to go to hell and just do things. But in other situations, maybe a ferry runs into a dock at high speed or whatever, or when there was a fire in downtown Friday Harbor, the council had the ability, or a fire marshal does. It really depends on the individual situation.
Okay.
I think now technically we're under discussion because you had a motion in a second.
Okay. I'm sorry.
But that's okay. I'm just anal.
We do have a Department of Emergency Management, so
Mhm.
that deals with other emergencies that might happen, oil spills and fires and so on.
Although I don't think, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I don't think the Department of Emergency Management has the authority to declare an emergency.
Right, they do
Right,
not.
but they manage the emergencies when it's done, right?
they're
Yes.
responsive.
They're very excited about managing them too. They're just, yeah, oh my God, an emergency.
David?
But is there any
Is there a
ordinance? Are there any ordinances, Kevin, that deal with this?
Sure.
Yeah,
Kevin?
Yeah, at the state level, there's several.
and they
Um,
apply to us. We have to follow state.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we could, so technically we could do some of this in a county charter. I think what you're hearing is it seems like a majority of us are saying this is a really bad idea for the reasons that were stated. But I think you could do some, but a lot of it is also in state statute. And so what state statute defines is like fire marshal has this authority and, a public health official has this authority, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's in several different statutes, but yes, it is defined, and some of it may be in county code, but I doubt it. I don't think San Juan County has
No.
gotten this far in the thinking.
I don't think so.
Okay, so where are we? We have a motion and a second to reject this issue. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of rejecting this issue? Okay, that's everybody? All six? Those opposed? None.
Dave, can I just ask a technical question at this point?
Yes, please.
David is going to come up with the minutes on this. Are you, Olivia isn't here, will you update the spreadsheet? So
Oh,
when
yeah.
so when it says drop sub, or David, will you
Yeah.
update? Okay,
Every week I will be updating this until we're
thank you.
finished.
That's all I wanted. I want to know who's
Yeah.
updating the spreadsheet. Okay, thank you,
Yeah,
David.
but it doesn't mean that I won't make errors, but you'll be able to comment at our weekly
Okay.
meetings.
But I just didn't know
As
who
To-
it,
As Tony has done extensively on one I did for the election subcommittee.
Okay, moving on. The number 6 is clarify the county councils, that the county council cannot levy taxes. Now, Tony, is this, you have an amendment to this that you propose?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. What I did not like in this particular phrase is levy taxes. I think it's an open-ended statement that to me seems kind of extraordinary. I would rather see something like may ask the voters to levy taxes, unless the word levy is a legal term that means that you have to go to the electorate for that. Is that maybe somebody else might know more about this than I? Kevin looked like he had his hand up.
Okay, yes, Kevin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the ability for the county to levy taxes or other fiscal matters is entirely defined in state code. I don't think we need to go here at all.
But it says the county council, Kevin. Does that make a difference?
No, there's stuff that's directly attributed to in statute, directly attributed to the county legislative body. So whether it's a council or commission, doesn't matter. And I don't know of any circumstances that aren't already defined in state code or even in the Constitution on the fiscal matters for a county. It's why, like, when we created the land bank, we had to go to the state legislature and get the state legislature to pass a bill saying that our county could could create a land bank, because we didn't have the authority to create a new taxing situation. The other thing that's come up recently is there was a handful of us who did just this last year significant research looking into vacation rentals, and if the county could charge either a separate tax or levy on vacation rentals, or if we could create a mechanism where people who rented long-term got a tax break similar to your agricultural or forest resource land designation. And those are fun, exciting ideas. Like, wow, that'd be cool. Like, rent long-term and you get offset by a tax break. All of that is defined in state statute, and we have no authority.
Okay, excuse me, may I say something, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Let's see, it's still not clear to me. I get it that state law and statutes determine a lot of these things, but can the council on a vote of 2-1 levy taxes that could be extraordinary, not necessarily common, normal things like a housing tax or something like that, but can they?
Okay. David, do you have a comment?
No, Kevin was going to
Okay.
answer that question
Okay,
specifically.
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, Kevin.
I was just going to say the answer is yes, but only where it is specifically prescribed in state law where they have the authority to do so, and where it is prescribed in state law or the Constitution that they have the authority to do so, our charter can't mess with it. And a legislative body, it's the majority. So whether they had 5 members or 3 members, the majority votes, that's it. We can't change that either. We couldn't say it requires a unanimous vote or something. That's all defined.
So Joe resident of San Juan County, who doesn't know the details of what all the nuances are in this particular sentence, can look at this and say, oh yeah, I feel okay because my county council can levy taxes whenever they feel like it.
Okay.
I mean,
David?
I understand Tony's concern that a layman could read this and think, oh my God, our county council can levy taxes. I would suggest that you could add wording such as levy tax, this is a kind of in quotation mark, levy taxes to the extent permitted under state law. And then the reader can say, oh, I better go research what state law permits. I don't think we want to cite state law or quote state law, but it's given the person who reads it the knowledge, hey, there's a state law that covers this issue, and I'll go research it.
Janet.
So I was just going to say, and Kevin, maybe you can shoot me down on this. I don't think anyone can levy a tax without the voters voting on it. So even if the county council wanted to levy a tax, can you think of a circumstance where it would not be voted on? So to me, when they say levy a tax, they're bringing the levy forward to the voting public. And I'm of the feeling that pretty much the voters get to decide. They can levy all they want. They can say we want to raise a 4.0 tax for cows to be grazing on San Juan Island, but the voters get to vote on it. I don't think unilaterally the county council can just levy a tax, but maybe it's under some emergency.
Can I address something on that?
Uh-huh.
There are
Yeah.
how do fees come into this? Like a fee on a cow or dog licenses or whatever. Those are under the purview of the county council, I believe, that they can't. And it only talks about taxes here, but there are other types of revenue that I believe they don't have to go through the state to implement.
So Richard, and then Kevin and Tony.
Fees, penalties, fines. I can't think of what else. The council has the authority to impose those.
Right.
Levying a tax, I think you have to go to the voters. But Kevin.
Well,
okay.
it's,
Kevin,
Okay, so Dick is correct, and a recent example is on mooring buoys, and another one is on guest houses. I mean, on vacation rentals. In both situations, the county council on their own took a vote in the last 2 years to dramatically raise the fees of those. But they have the authority to do so. I believe, and I said this earlier, but I believe that the entirety of taxes and the authority that the county has is very clearly defined in state code. I don't believe that there is a situation where that is not the case. And I also think that, although I'm not sure, that Janet is correct, that every one of those
Yeah.
goes to the vote of the people, although I'm not sure. So what I would suggest for us to move forward is that we need to pause this and do some homework and find out if it's the case, if I'm correct on this, that it's entirely within state code. Everything I've researched where I've wanted to raise a tax at the county level, I've been shot down. I've done a lot of homework on this, but it doesn't mean there's not an example that isn't out there.
Why, excuse me, why, I like David Dellendorf's language. Why don't we simply add as permitted under state law? Then we've covered it.
But it says that legislative power as granted by the state constitution and law are not reserved to the people shall be vested in county. This is the first part of the legislative powers and duties. So there's in 2.30, there's one, it's the
Yeah, yeah.
definition of who's the granting of this power. And then the second is, here's how they shall exercise its legislative power underneath it. So the power lies in the paragraph before it, the state constitution.
Yeah. Okay, good point. And I think it's covered then.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the same thing, Dick. The way this reads, and thank you, I think it was Tony who put it up. Thank you. I think the way this reads, it seems to be fine.
Yeah,
The
I think
bold,
it is.
the bold is my edit.
Tony's suggesting that we add to section A, instead of just saying that the council has the ability to levy taxes appropriate, that may ask the voters to levy taxes. He's adding that one little sentence, that one little
Yeah, my
condition.
I'm
Tony.
sorry then. So then, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
I can't see who has their hand up. right
Tony
now.
had his hand up and
Okay,
then
Tony and Kevin. There we go.
again,
Tony,
this is just that the council even though it has the authority to prepare, like, for example, remember a few years ago, we had a levy tax for the county that added like a 1% tax. They could have, if it were legal for them to do it without the vote of the public, they could have done it on their own. They should have said, okay, you know what, we're going to levy a 1% tax for 6 years. But they had to go to the public for that vote to happen, for that tax to happen. So I think if in fact A, as it stands currently without my bold, then they didn't have to go to the public to vote for that levy. They could have done it on their own. So my suggestion is to add a couple of words that says may ask the voters to levy taxes, or they're able to put together a package, a proposition that they can send to the voters to levy taxes.
Kevin, please.
thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 points. First of all, if you say may, it doesn't mean a damn thing. So if you actually want to be forceful, you've got to say shall. They
Right.
shall go to the vote of the people. However, my point that I'm trying to make is I think this is very clearly defined in state law. So either they have to go to the voters or they do not, and we're not able to mess with that. If there happens to be a situation that I'm not aware of where they don't have to go to the voters, that also is, I guarantee,
Protected.
defined under state law. And so, and it may be like, for instance, I actually do know one where, no, they have to go to the voters on this too, but they have the ability to pick the range, and that's on the 1/10 of 1% for mental health. Counties have the ability to opt into that if they want, and they can go up to 1/10 of 1%. And so that again is very clearly defined. So I don't think we need to add the language there, Tony. I like what you're saying, but I don't think we need to. And more importantly, I don't know if we're allowed to, because it's prescribed in state law, whether they can or can't.
And I think it could confuse the issue.
Okay. So David, real quick, and then we'll,
So we're
move
not going to put in the language to the extent permitted under state law. It's that first sentence that Janet has referred to. We think that covers it. We don't need to have that wording. Is that correct?
I think that way covers it because it's basically saying it's granted by the state constitution.
No, that, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
no, so that, is everybody in agreement with that, so I can scratch it from my minutes? Okay, but the other thing,
wait a minute, one second, Tony, please.
I have to run, but I'm fine with it. If you decide not to do anything with it, I'm okay with it.
Okay, great, thank
Okay.
you. Before, Tony, before you run number 7, we're gonna just skip it until next week. So
That's you. So
That's you. It's your stuff. The other amendments we'll skip. Thank you for coming tonight.
Are you gonna send the other 4
Yeah.
amendment?
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't see those. Yeah, definitely will do. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
bye.
could I bring up what I brought up before, bring up again about what the county's powers are with regard to other fees, permit fees, licensing fees, all kinds of other fees. Do we need to list those under 2, where it says the county council shall exercise its legislative power, et cetera, it shall have the power to. And we've got A, we just talked about levy taxes. What about B, adding a B or whatever that addresses fees and other sources of revenue for the county?
Kevin, please. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. I believe, David, those are also prescribed in
Yes.
state statute. And again, I don't know of an example where it is not, but I mean, even
Okay.
with dog licenses, it says the county has the authority to do this, or it says they do not have the authority to do this.
Okay, so it's covered by that same sentence that Janet was referring to. Okay,
I think
That's-
I think so.
okay, I'm fine.
And this, let me add one point, and this comes back again to the fact that counties are, under the law, are subdivisions of state government.
Yeah,
So the state says, here are the things
you
you
could
can do.
do.
And other than that, you can't do it.
Okay.
I have a question. Is there merit to restating an idea like this? That the county can only levy taxes in a certain way, or fines can, and fees can be levied in a certain way, or just we want to keep it clean and just
I
rely
think-
on state law?
So the more things, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Kevin. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the more things like that you add, the more you trip people up. And the other thing is a lot of the decisions that we're probably going to come up with are already going to raise eyebrows. And the more you say the word tax or fee or levy, the more people you freak out.
Totally.
I would say on any of these, we don't change a damn thing.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. So we shall move on to evaluate strengths and weaknesses of the county council. We talked about that before, and we said we will, what did we say? We're going to push that
Not
back
address
up,
it.
not address it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I talked to Maureen C, and she was happy about that. She didn't really want to, she wanted, I couldn't tell if she wanted to see addressed, but she was kind of pleased it was not going to be addressed. So
So she brought it up.
what that's worth. Yeah.
I have a question for Kevin, of what he wants in cases like this. Do we just document in a spreadsheet like this and in the minutes we agreed not to address, period? Or do we actually have to have a motion to not pursue this, to against any possible change as a result of this? How do we document this?
Yeah. We did do that for this one. We did say we're not going to address it, but I think by a vote. But Kevin, yes, please.
You can also just say that by consensus, it was agreed.
Yeah. Exactly.
Under our Robert's Rules small group or whatever the hell it's called, we can just say that. So you don't
So-
need a motion on every one of them. If everybody nods and says we're not doing this and nobody objects, you can say, okay, by consensus, we've decided.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Janet. Please.
the next thing is the self-governance for islands, and we have 10 minutes left. And I think Olivia wants to be part of that conversation. So
Oh.
can we skip over that one tonight?
Yeah, definitely. I think
Okay.
that's something that it'd be good to have a more full conversation with. about.
Okay.
So we're moving on, if that's okay with everybody else. Nod for that.
Did
Move
we
on.
not,
Yes.
did we not already discuss that, or did that happen in another one of my committees?
No, we have not had a
Haven't discussed it.
discussion at all
Okay.
about it.
we've discussed it, you and I have, but
Hey, that's it. Your own committee in your
Yeah.
own little world in your own
Uh,
committee.
Yeah.
So we're on to number 10, review structure, authority, and duties of the citizens committees.
Kevin Ranker.
Mr. Ranker,
What is
yes,
that?
please.
So 10 and 11 can actually go together.
Okay.
So what has happened is there is no process for how members of the public will be vetted, approved or disapproved, or appointed or unappointed on our citizens committees. And we have dozens of citizens committees with volunteers who are doing great work. We also, I have found, have dozens of people who have applied and never heard a damn thing. There is an application now. They made a formal application you have to fill out about 3 years ago. So you fill out that application and submit it. We have one member of the Deer Harbor Planning Review Committee who was appointed and never even heard. Like he literally found his name on the county website and went, oh my God, and no one told him. There was also no discussion with him of what his duties were, what his responsibilities were, nothing. There was nothing.
Did he even apply?
No, he applied. There was another person who applied, and because one council member didn't want them, their application was never even heard by any other council member.
Yeah.
And so what I want to put forward, and this is one that I'm actually very passionate about. I believe that we need to have a public process that is in the charter, so the county council members can't mess with it, because it's not okay if somebody politically has a axe to grind, so they just say, I'm never going to give that person a vote. They do have the authority to vote them down, but they need to have the guts to do it publicly. And so what happens is when you fill out an application, you need to know that your application is going to go up before the full council and there will be a vote. And they will say, here's our vacancies, here's the applicants, we vote for these people and not for these people. And that has to happen. And that's the way it's done in most places with anything like this. And it's frankly disgusting that our county has gotten away with this so long. So we need to change it. And the only way we can do it is in the charter.
Janet, please.
I think that is a very fair and transparent thing we should add to the charter. I would suggest, Kevin, that you come up with verbiage that we can shove into 2.6. Is that what it is? 2.6 that says that, kind of ABC point, applications are given, everyone is considered. Point B, there is a public vote on each one of these things. Can I just tie in? There's a public vote, which you had, and then there's a 12, which is Olivia's, which is background checks of applicants to citizens committees. I don't agree with background checks on applicant. I don't even know what that means, but she's not here, so maybe she has a reason for that. Yeah, Kevin.
I have thought about this a lot, and I'd be happy to write up language for section 2.6.
Okay, that's awesome. Where are we on background checks? Are you? But she's not here, so it's not fair for me to. She needs to address that. But I think I am in total agreement that I think if someone applies and they're shot down in some dark room without any knowledge by acknowledgement of that they're voted on, I think that's a fair thing to add.
The other thing that we found out, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Kevin, please.
The other thing that we found out is there's a lot of unwritten stuff, policies. They've been described as policies, but they're not written anywhere because at least one of them is actually illegal. And so the other thing is that I will write up for consideration is something around eligibility. And I'm going to be as broad as possible. It's going to be basically if you're a citizen of San Juan County above the age of 18, and maybe on some committees, it doesn't even need to be above the age of 18. Maybe you want a youth position, that you're eligible, and that's it. Because they have all sorts of stuff they've put in there over the years where they're, just like, oh yeah, this happened, so that they're not eligible. So kind of like Opalco.
Is there?
Yeah,
Can I
David.
say something about background checks? Is there going to be an unforeseen consequence here where people are just like they don't like to release their financial information when they run for public office? Is there going to be people who are going to say, I don't want people checking into my background, even if they have nothing to hide.
I think Olivia had, this is her thing, and I think she
Yeah.
needs to be here to express how she saw this unfolding before we actually
Yeah.
talk about it. So I'm like amazed that we got through like more than half our points tonight, Dave.
Yeah, more organization helps a lot. Was Olivia's background checks or was it drug test?
I just see background checks of
Okay, sure.
applicants to, and boy, I do not want to start doing drug testing of people that are on volunteer
I'm not sure
committees.
it's legal. Yeah, Kevin, please.
I think we need to punt the entire discussion of 12 until Olivia is here. I
Yeah.
have a lot of input on this one and some concerns. for her.
Oh,
I have concerns too. So it seems like a good place to stop.
Yeah.
actually, I'm looking at the original notes of what she said.
Oh,
She
and what
said, she said should have to pass a background check initially and receive random UAs throughout the term. And I don't know what UAs refers to. Is that a drug test?
Drug test, yeah.
Urine
Oh,
analysis.
oh my God, that's
There's
over
no-
the top. That's way.
There's no way I would suggest that.
The
Listen,
other thing is we're doing a lot of work. We're doing a lot of work at the state level and nationally, and I would hope we do it here to really recognize forgiveness. And, you know, just yesterday, the state Senate passed a bill giving full voting rights and some other things to felons who have released and done their time. I do not want, we also have a bill. I actually, you know what? We'll bring this up with Olivia and I'll try and look into it if I have time. I don't know if this is legal because we actually passed a ban the box bill or legislation 2 years ago in the state Senate through the state legislature. And the ban the box is that little box that says when you fill out an application, have you ever been convicted of a felony? That's now illegal. You're not allowed to have that box anymore. We banned the box. And so this may come under that law. I could ask them on that.
I
Well,
just,
turn it down. We're going to turn it down anyway.
Yeah.
There's no way any of us are going to approve that.
but she should have her moment and hear us all express our passion that this is probably not a great thing to add to the charter ever.
I am interested though to hear what her issue is. though.
Exactly. That's I'm curious.
Where
Like,
she's coming from.
yeah, exactly.
Richard.
Is everybody willing to take up to another 10 minutes and see if we could at least get through 16 or at least decide that we can't do some of those and they need to go to next week? We try
Okay.
to knock off more of these.
I'm in.
I'm
good.
fine.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Honey,
I'm
bring up the Chardonnay.
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, damn it. I was just gonna say, but it sucks because I'm still not drinking because I want to lose some more LBs and go for a bigger run. So
So just so I'm clear, for 11 and 12, Kevin is going to come up with some language. And I'm sorry, for 10, no, where are we?
10,
10,
11.
11, and
10,
12.
11, Kevin's coming up. 12, we're waiting for Olivia.
Correct. And now we're on to 13. And we're going to do
You withdrew your support, but then I was kind of hoping we'd revisit this after the
Oh.
discussion with Jamie and
Okay, because I put it on the list initially, let me tell you where I am now. After listening to the people we've brought in and having some discussion and time to think about this, my preference now would be to ensconce clearly in the charter that process must be a collaborative process between the auditor and the county manager. Right now, as somebody pointed out, the charter says the auditor, but Mike and Mylene do it together. I would like to make that mandatory. I think there are reasons for the auditor to be involved, but neither one should be able to do it unilaterally.
Kevin, please. Almost agree with Dick. I would be supportive of language that said that the auditor is responsible for the budget and must create it in collaboration with the manager, but the buck has to stop with somebody, and it sure as hell cannot stop with an appointed official. Not going to happen. And I'm sorry, I know we say that they answer to the council, so it's really the council, but we can have a 2-hour discussion about that. And I hope I would be able to convince you of why that's actually not working necessarily, but we're not going to touch that. So I think the auditor has to be responsible. I think it needs to be an independently elected official who is ultimately responsible for the budget for the reasons that you've heard me state in the past and others have stated. But I do really appreciate what Dick's saying about how both Mylene and Mike have said that it's working well now in this collaborative process, but it might not be the case in the future. So we could add language that says the county auditor is responsible for the budget, and just clarify that again, but then say, and they must prepare the budget in cooperation with the county manager.
You said it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I could go along with that depending on the specific language we come up with, because one of the things I'm concerned about, frankly, my history in county government, we had a long-serving auditor who, in my opinion, used the budget process in a vindictive manner.
Absolutely, he did.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that we don't have an auditor in the future who can behave that way.
Lance, where's my wine?
Just
Get it, please.
The only thing I was going to say is the auditor is tasked with building a budget. The responsibility of the county budget is with the county council. And I just would be very.
That's
You're going to say that the auditor is responsible for the budget?
the auditor is responsible for preparing the budget, the adoption.
But
budget.
that's fine what you're saying, but what you said was the auditor is responsible for the budget. Ultimately, the county council is responsible for the budget.
Under state statute, the county council shall adopt the budget.
Yeah.
We're
And
not messing with that. But what we need to clarify is the county auditor is responsible for the preparation, or you could say creation of the budget.
yes,
And shall do so. Actually,
in collaboration with the
Great.
county manager.
I think that actually is a good combination of language.
Yeah,
And actually, we might say the county auditor is responsible for initiating the budget.
No,
they're creating it.
I think you could say initiating and preparing the budget in collaboration with.
Yeah.
And clarify that I think it's really important that the buck stops somewhere.
And I would support that.
I just want it to be strong that the county manager has to be meaningfully involved.
And I think you put that, if you put that in the chart, that it needs to be created with the, not that the county manager is created, but just in collaboration with.
Kevin?
Oh, in
Thank you.
consultation. I would say in consultation with the county managers. That's what I would say.
Okay, so David, if I try and spit out a motion, can you write it?
Oh, I was gonna suggest that Dick was gonna do it. That's what he had, well, no, that's what my spreadsheet shows, that he was gonna do it last week, but either way, but I don't want to take notes, try to put it.
I'll put it, I'm gonna put it in chat right now. I'm gonna put what
Okay. You know, I don't know how to access chat after a meeting is over. Is there a way to access it?
Ooh,
Can
no,
you
you
just-
need to, so you need to, when he chats it, copy and paste it and put it into a Word, like, sorry. You know
No,
what,
you're not.
David, I'll do it and I'll email it to you.
Okay,
That's
Okay.
so,
Thank you.
Kevin, can you put it, and I'll copy your other thing too.
Could
Okay.
you do that, Janet, before you start on your Chardonnay?
Dude,
Is it too late?
dude,
by the way, there is wording here about the budget where it's supposed to be done following steps for adopting an annual budget and with requirements established by the state auditor. So there's something in the state law about how to do the budget and what the process is, it appears. And the other thing is, there was an amendment. I don't know if the amendment was just to a biannual budget or it had other wording in it, but I don't know if any of us know what's in there. But you may look at section 7, Kevin, 7.05 about the budget cycle.
Well, I think their adoption of a biennial budget is something that sounds sexy and hot, and they got excited about it, and it's stupid. But that's
Yeah.
not,
Well, it's done.
I know. David, you are one of the people who years ago taught me to pick my battles. So I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah, that's not a
Okay.
battle to pick. So, Kevin, are you going to put in some verbiage about the,
Almost done.
okay. And
Oh
then
my
David,
God.
I'm going to email you, Kevin's first thing about, I'll go back. I think it's 2 point. No, that was, I'll find it, but I'll do Kevin's 2 verbiages.
The budget is in section 7, article 7.
What do you guys think?
No,
of that?
no, I'm sorry.
The county
7.1.
auditor shall be responsible for the initiation and preparation of the budget. The auditor shall do this in consultation with the county manager.
Okay. So I would like to, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
make a motion that we put forward this language that reads, the county auditor shall be responsible for the initiation and preparation of the budget, period. The county auditor shall do this in consultation with the county manager.
Good. Is there? Yeah, Richard.
I think collaboration, frankly, is a stronger word than consultation.
Okay.
I like consultation.
I think the problem, Dick, and this is just me in words, collaboration means that they have to equally come to a consensus about what is happening versus the county manager makes an argument, fights. This is what the county council wants. The auditor says, that's great, but we need to still get rid of 3 people in this department. And collaboration means they have to come up with an agreed upon thing. To me, consultation is, because it gives the auditor a little more say, but maybe you want them to have equal say.
Point of order. Can someone second the motion and then we can go into
I'll
discussion?
second the motion.
Okay. But Dick, I hear what you're saying, and I did that deliberately. When Janet said consultation, I actually like that word so that it clarifies that ultimately the auditor, the buck stops with the auditor. But for me, this clarifies what we've heard is working well.
Webster says consultation is the action or process of formally consulting or discussing.
That's what I want.
What is,
Are you looking up collaboration?
I am.
So collaboration, the action of working with someone to produce or create something, not someone, sorry, something. Good. Chardonnay.
The action of working with someone to produce or create something. So yeah, so I deliberately, I am in favor of consultation, even more so now, because it gets at what I was trying to put forward.
Okay, I won't argue it.
Somebody has to look at Article 7 and figure out where exactly to insert it. And I'm looking at it and it's no logical place. Maybe they have to have a new subsection or something like that, but we can use our own discretion for that, can't we, Kevin?
Yeah, you can make a new section for it if you wanted.
And we don't have to figure that out tonight. Let's see if we can
Right.
knock off.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, if I were going to do this, sorry, it's just a word thing. Under 7.10, at least 75 days prior to the end of the fiscal year, the county auditor shall be responsible for the initiation and preparation of the budget. The auditor shall do this in consultation with the county manager to present to the county council complete, but I would just insert it somewhere in 7.10.
Okay.
That's a little awkward. That's a little bumpy, David. So look at it a little bit more, but I think it's in 7.10.
Okay.
The other thing is we will be hiring somebody
Oh, thank God.
who will help us with some of that too. Now we don't have enough money to do a lot of that, but the drafting, as much as we can do, is great, but we'll have someone who can also help us with exactly that, Janet.
Okay.
Okay.
As-
Call the question.
Now, a quick question. As it is now, is it the auditor and the county manager who present the budget, or is it just the auditor?
Just the auditor.
The auditor presents the budget.
Just in 7, it is described a presentation and adoption of budgets. It's just the auditor.
And that's how it is practically in terms of, because it is, isn't it manager who's actually administrating everything that goes to the council?
No, technically the council's clerk sets their agenda. But
Yeah.
what's happened is the manager has taken over a lot of that. The manager's taken over a lot of
So
stuff.
I think, and Dave, I would say the point that Jamie was making was which was a little odd, but he felt that the auditor, and Mylene pushed back on this pretty hard, that the auditor made decisions that the council didn't know about. This allows their representative, which is the manager, to be involved in at least consulting and reporting back to the county council as the budget is being developed. So they're not sandbagged when here's the budget, it's presented.
Okay.
And so they have some information. And I think what it does is it allows representation of the council to be present and somewhat involved as a consultant while the budget is being prepared. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just
Okay.
kind of trying to sense of what is it we want to go to the council, and what is the relationship we want between these two officials. Is there any more discussion? Okay. All those in favor of this proposal, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nope.
Motion passes.
Can I just ask another question? And this is actually for you, Dave, and for
Yeah.
Kevin. And then just so you know, 15 and 16 are mine. And I have a quick report on that Mike Thomas is getting me a bunch of information on this. So I have nothing to report on this. So we won't get to that. But because Olivia isn't here and because Jane isn't here, we don't have to revisit all of these again because they weren't here to vote on it, do we?
No,
Okay,
no.
okay, okay. I just want to be clear that
Opinion about that?
if they're not here
Yeah.
and we vote on it, we don't have to go and redo this.
Yep.
No.
I am
Yeah.
all in favor of that.
Yeah.
So I think we have one more item before we get to 16, which is copies of the budget to be made public, to make available online.
Is this something that would be not an amendment, but something a recommendation?
Recommendation. I would
Council?
wholeheartedly support
the
this as a
county?
recommendation.
I thought the budget already was online. Am
That's-
I
I'm-
mistaken?
I think it's kind of buried, is what Kyle was saying.
Well, that's another issue.
We could,
Yeah,
Kevin?
Kevin.
it is buried and the website sucks. But
Yes.
what we could, this is a slippery, it's a dangerous slope, frankly. It's not just slippery. So I'm not sure I'm in favor of this, but one of the things I thought of when Kyle was saying that, and I went to look for the budget and found the same thing, was that we could get prescriptive in what needs to be easily accessible from the homepage digitally. And we could list like the budget, the elected officials, but the reason Janet's shaking her head is the same concern I had, which is
That's
Yeah.
micromanaging.
things you need to start getting into, and you know what, that's anal. And we just need to tell our county council and frankly, our county manager, like, have your IT department develop a website that people can use.
Dave, I totally agree with you. I think this is a recommendation. This is not an amendment to the charter, the constitution of the county.
Okay. Should we,
I move that this be a recommendation to the county council and the county manager.
okay. Okay, make it, well, the recommendation is to have it on the website or have it more readily
it
available? Is our recommendation.
Available.
Readily available.
Yeah.
Okay. You got that, David?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Is
so
there-
this is by consensus, I take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I made a motion, but I'll just by consensus. Yeah.
The problem continually is that what IT people think is readily available.
Exactly.
And what regular human beings think is
Exactly.
readily available are very, and I'm not joking. I mean, it's two very different things.
No, you need granimals for like websites in county council, like match up the giraffe here and the giraffe here, and you'll get to the budgets.
You know, this brings up a point that a new point we could,
No,
not right
No.
now. No,
No.
wait a minute. No, not tonight. But
No,
there's a
you don't
section.
get to bring it up then. Just write a note and tell us
Yeah.
next week.
yeah, but next week.
All right, but it plays into this at technology management. It's a whole
can't help
big
it.
section.
Again, next week.
Okay,
David, I want to show you my Chardonnay and I have not finished yet. And I really want to finish my glass of wine.
Good.
Well,
Okay.
I gave up drinking 25 years ago, so I don't want to even see it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
This was an
I do-
awesome meeting,
I do-
Dave.
So
I
we're not
do-
gonna, so we're not gonna do 15 and 16.
No, so here's my report on 15, 16. This, I can talk, I need a lot more information from Mike Thomas. And I gave him my questions about the Business Bureau being moved into the county government. And all he said was, and there were a bunch of questions, which hopefully I'll be able to report back. He said, this is very intriguing. So
Okay.
I think he's in support of it. And by the way, this may not be a charter amendment. I think what I'm going to suggest is this be a strong recommendation to the county council to consider this. You're saying it should be a charter thing?
Not going to happen. If we don't do it in the charter, it's not going to happen.
You don't
Yeah.
think the county council? Okay,
No way. No
Okay.
way. Guarantee even Cindy will roll.
okay. You think
Not gonna
really?
happen. I guarantee it. The
All right.
only way this happens is a popular vote of the people.
Okay.
And
David,
it's a brilliant idea. Stick with it.
All right.
David,
I think it's a completely harebrained idea. Excuse me for saying that. Janet, I'm sorry.
Why
I
do you
don't,
think it's-
I don't think that there's, why are we even talking about this? What is the problem? I'd like to hear.
Okay, so in a
some
brief-
problem that we're
Okay,
trying to solve.
in a very brief encapsulation of this, the Business Bureau gets a crap load of money from the county in lodging tax. They also are able to get money because they sell memberships to their visit. They're like an Uber chamber, which is a redundancy in terms of what needs to happen. And they get money from the county of Freddie Harbor in terms of lodging tax. So here's an example of what could happen, David. If they reduce, and there's like 4 or 5 FTE involved with the Visitors Bureau, no oversight, no one complains about it. If you reduced the Visitors Bureau to a single person within the county, that's lodging tax that isn't going there. You know where the lodging tax could actually go? To parks, which is in a deficit right now. And parks can benefit from lodging tax because that is a promotion of the islands. There's a lot of things that can be supported by the lodging tax. As everyone says, it's prescriptive, but there are ways of defining it. Okay, David.
That can be done under the current system. We have a lodging tax advisory board and they decide, we're just talking about.
No,
one
because
element.
there's a contract. There's a contract right now with the Visitors Bureau. So they get a certain guaranteed amount, which is a huge proportion of the
No,
lodging
I'm
tax.
talking about the big tax. I'm talking about the
Richard, and then
total.
Kevin.
Point of order. I asked for an extra 10 minutes, which you all graciously agreed
Yeah,
to. Janet said a few minutes ago that she didn't want to discuss this until she got
Exactly.
information from Mike.
Yeah.
I move that we adjourn.
Good idea.
I would like
It
to.
is now 8:20.
And David, we can come back. I just want to get some numbers that are aligned with some of this to give you examples.
And just before we call the question on adjournment, hi. I want to say that I think it's a really interesting idea. But we also need to be very clear that there's 2 different lodging tax monies and one of them has to be used for promotion. And the promotion is really important that we continue to do it. It doesn't mean the chambers couldn't do it or
No, exactly.
or the
And-
county couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And when we have this discussion, I think there's going to be really interesting kind of polar opposite views on this that we can discuss.
And I can define how promotion
That
works.
I call the question.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to put out there, we'd like to get some speakers in here to talk about some of these things.
Mhm.
And before we adjourn, I'd like to maybe get some suggestions from people of speakers. One of them, I'd like to get the director who's in charge of commissions and boards in the county manager's office to come and speak to us about how they're being organized and how they're.
I don't know if there is there a person responsible for boards and commissions?
I think
I
Bridget.
thought it was Mike.
Yeah, I've looked into this and I have not heard it's.
Right, yeah.
Isn't each council member assigned to particular boards and commissions? Isn't that how they keep track of them?
Yeah, right.
Trust me, trust me, it's one of these, dude.
Let's get right. So let's let's try to get somebody in here maybe who can explain what the status is, because it looks like we're going to be doing some things with it, if that's okay with you. And
We're
then
Things with it unless I die.
okay. So at that, I don't see any sense of new business that we've talked about. We've covered a lot of things tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I
I
think
made
Kevin
one.
did.
Kevin,
Or
was-
someone
Got
did, yeah.
A second already, so
Okay.
call the
Great.
question.
Great meeting,
question?
Dave.
Adjourn?
Aye.
Can Janet stay on so I could chat with her, or is that not possible?
Sure, that's fine.
Sure.
But
I
if
can see him.
somebody, I don't, if Dave pulls the plug though. what
Stop
happens to-
recording.
I know, I'm
Stop
just-
recording because the meeting's over.
Yeah, stop the recording.